In March 1947, a dark and horrifying chapter unfolded in Rawalpindi division of British India. This was a time of chaos and bloodshed as Muslim mobs, driven by militant Muslim League National Guards, unleashed widespread violence, massacres, and brutal atrocities upon Hindu and Sikh communities. The land was torn apart by ominous precursor to India's partition. The catalyst for this nightmarish carnage was the collapse of a coalition government comprising Punjab Unionists, Indian National Congress, and Akali Dal. The Muslim League's relentless campaign over 6 weeks had shattered this alliance. The aftermath was a heart-wrenching tragedy with estimates ranging from 2,000 to 7,000 Sikhs and Hindus mercilessly killed. Survivors gripped by terror embarked on a mass exodus from Rawalpindi division, with an astonishing 80,000 fleeing by the end of April 1947. These horrifying events marked the onset of a systematic violence against women, a dark underbelly of partition. Rampant violence, assault, and forced conversions scarred the region. Many women, fearing abduction and rape, chose to end their lives along with their children. Others met a gruesome fate at the hands of their own male relatives. The Rawalpindi Massacres were a grim prelude to the tragedy of India's partition. They were a chilling display of ethnic cleansing and ushered in an era of unfathomable suffering. The backdrop to these horrors was the political turmoil of the time. The Muslim League's domination in 1946 Punjab provincial election had set the stage for this catastrophe. Despite their electoral success, they had failed to secure non-Muslim seats and the majority in the assembly. The Unionist Party, led by Khizar Hayat Dibana, had formed a coalition government with the Indian National Congress and Shiromani Akali Dal. However, the situation deteriorated rapidly after Muhammad Ali Jinnah's call for direct action in August 1946. Widespread rioting and violence erupted, beginning in Calcutta and spreading across the country. By December 1946, the Northwest Frontier Province also engulfed in chaos. Rawalpindi division became haven for Hindus and Sikh refugees who had been displaced from Hazara district of Northwestern Province. As tensions escalated, Divana's ban on Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and the Muslim League National Guard aggravated the situation. Large-scale direct action demonstration by Muslim League escalated into violence, intensifying communal tensions in the province. The stage was set for the tragedy that unfolded on March 1947 as the British government announced its impending departure from India in February 1947, leaving behind a region scarred by violence, suffering, and sorrow. On the ominous day of March 2, 1947, Khizar Hayat Dibana, the premier, resigned from his post, succumbing to the relentless pressure exerted by fervent agitations of the Muslim League and the relentless campaign against his government. The expectation of a Muslim League-led coalition was widespread, but this aspiration remained unfulfilled. The League found itself in a precarious position, unable to quell the mounting apprehensions of non-Muslim legislators, which had grown increasingly hostile towards the League's impassioned pursuit of Pakistan. On March 3rd, Master Thara Singh, the charismatic leader of Akali Dal, etched his defiance into the annals of history by publicly denouncing the demand for Pakistan outside the hallowed precincts of Punjab Assembly. The ripples of this bold proclamation would send shockwaves throughout the region. The following day, March 4th, witnessed the ominous outbreak of communal clashes in Lahore and Amritsar. These clashes were ignited by fervent demonstrations of Hindus and Sikhs who vehemently opposed Pakistan demand, further fanning the flames of discord. As March 5th dawned, a day meant for celebration of Hindu festival of Holi, it was tragically stained by bloodshed. Armed Muslim mobs embarked on a spree of violence, targeting Hindus and Sikhs in numerous cities across West Punjab. The town of Rawalpindi and the ancient city of Multan bore witness to a brutal onslaught that left close to 200 lives extinguished, with majority belonging to Hindu community. Under the shroud of darkness, the horrors continued to unfold as several villages in the Multan district fell victim to relentless attacks. The once peaceful homes of Hindus were reduced to ruins. Lives were tragically cut short, and the riches of many were stolen or laid to waste. With the vacuum of governance looming large and chaos reigning supreme, Governor Evan Jenkins took a drastic step of importing governor's rule in Punjab. It was a stark reminder of the desperate measures needed to restore order in a land gripped by fear and lawlessness. The eruption of violence swiftly spilled over from urban centers into tranquil rural landscape of Rawalpindi division in the North Punjab. Confronted by the steadfast resistance of Sikhs and Hindus at the heart of Rawalpindi, hordes of Muslim mobs embarked on a relentless rampage. They left a trail of devastation with arson, pillaging, mass killings and sexual atrocities plaguing one village after another across the districts of Rawalpindi, Jhelum, Campbellpur, now known as Attock. Sikhs bore the brunt of brutality, but Hindus were not spared either. On March 7th, a horrifying incident unfolded when a mob attacked a train in Taxila, resulting in gruesome deaths of 22 Hindu and Sikh passengers. The village of Khauta witnessed the torching of houses in its Sikh and Hindu quarters, with helpless occupants trapped inside and women subjected to abduction and sexual assault. Tragically, the village of Toha Khalsa became the epicenter of well-publicized massacre. An armed Muslim mob laid siege to the village, coercing Sikh residents to embrace Islam. In a desperate bid to shield their female family members from abduction and violence, Sikh men resorted to unthinkable acts of violence against them before succumbing to the attackers. Heartbreakingly, over 90 Sikh women and children chose mass suicide by leaping into a well to evade sexual assault. The death toll in this village reached a harrowing estimate of 300. A parallel tragedy unfolded in the west of Khoa Khalsa, where a similar massacre, mass suicide and rampant looting unfolded, resulting in death of approximately 156, along with smaller number of Hindus. In Bewal village, a house where villagers had sought refuge was besieged, and villagers were presented with grim ultimatum: surrender their arms and convert to Islam. While one group of villagers accepted the offer and underwent conversion, the others faced periodic attacks. The house was ultimately set ablaze, forcing the survivors to seek sanctuary in Gurudwara, only to be met with another deadly onslaught. Shockingly, out of a total of 500 Hindu and Sikh villagers, a mere 76 survived, with nearly half of them having been abducted. Similar horrifying attacks unfolded in villages like Mughal, Basali, Kalur, Duberhan, Jika Gali and Kuri were also engulfed in a wave of terror. The survivors not only bore the physical scars but also endured the emotional torment of mutilation, with many women suffering horrific violation of their bodies and souls. Villages in Gujar Khan and Campbellpur district lay in ruins, with lifeless bodies of children discovered hanging from trees, and girls as young as 11 enduring unthinkable acts in the hands of perpetrators. A report from the All India Congress Committee paints a chilling picture of the orchestrated violence, outlining the gruesome strategy behind the attacks. It commenced with a sinister process. Minority communities were systematically disarmed with the collaboration of local law enforcement. While they were deceived by solemn oaths sworn on Holy Quran, promising peaceful intentions, once rendered defenseless, the helpless minorities fell victim to brutal assaults. As resistance crumbled, a horde of criminals emerged. Among them, log bearers and looters stood out, operating alongside their unconventional transport crops consisting of mules, donkeys and camels. Subsequently, a group referred to as Mujahideens arrived with arms and containers filled with petrol, kerosene, oil, setting ablaze the looted shops and houses. The The horrific sequence continued with the arrival of Maulvis and barbers. These barbers stripped victims of their hair and beards, performing forced circumcisions, all while Maulvis recited kalmas and conducted coerced marriage ceremonies. Looters, including women and children, descended upon the ravaged communities. These nightmarish accounts find haunting echoes in the first-hand reports submitted to police by survivors of relentless attacks. The assaults were not spontaneous, but rather meticulously planned, with rumors deliberately disseminating through mosques to incite Muslim villagers. Sinister forces outside the affected areas provided both weapon and financial backing, with partial funding attributed to the Muslim League. The marauders were heavily armed, wielding a terrifying arsenal of guns, rifles, axes, swords, spears, sticks, and even hand grenades in some instances. To prevent the displaced from returning and rebuilding, their homes were systematically reduced to rubble and flattened. Some Muslim households were marked by their inhabitants to aid the attackers in distinguishing them from non-Muslim residences. Notably, even the ancestral home of Tara Singh was reduced to ashes in the relentless onslaught. The mobs carried out their ruthless campaign of plunder and mass murder with impunity, unhindered by any significant opposition. Shockingly, some Muslim policemen actively facilitated and abetted the violence across various locations in West Punjab, responding belatedly or inadequately to the pleas for assistance. What remains particularly disturbing is the conspicuous absence of condemnation from any leader of Muslim League, both at the national and provincial levels, in the wake of these horrific massacres. In mid-March, the violence finally subsided. In numerous places, the attacks ceased when military intervened to rescue survivors. Countless villages were left with their population decimated, and only few fortunate souls endured. The official death toll for non-Muslims in just the Rawalpindi district reached 2,263, though this figure was deemed inaccurate due to the widespread chaos and breakdown of administrative machinery. It excluded cases where entire families perished with no claims made. An independent report, Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, estimated over 7,000 casualties. Scholars later estimated between 4,000 to 8,000 deaths in rural areas of Rawalpindi. The violence also saw the abduction of numerous women, a staggering 70 from Doberan, 40 from Harilal, 30 from Tenj, 90 from Rajar, 105 from Bamali, an additional 500 were abducted from Kauta, and somewhere between 400 and 500 from Rawalpindi. These unfortunate women were often subjected to multiple sales and heinous assaults by their captors. The massacres prompted a mass exodus of Sikhs and Hindus from Rawalpindi division to central and eastern Punjab, Sikh-ruled princely states, Jammu Kashmir, Delhi, and United Provinces. These horrific accounts of suffering fueled the thirst for revenge, especially among Sikhs. They planned to retaliate by inflicting similar violence upon the Muslims in the eastern regions of the province, making room for refugees expelled from the west. These massacres left an indelible mark on the Sikhs and Hindus in Punjab, deepening their resolve for partition. The absence of condemnation from Muslim League leaders widened the growing chasm between League and the Sikhs. Congress and Sikh leaders in Punjab began demanding the partition of the province. On March 8th, the Congress Working Committee passed a resolution in favor of Punjab's partition. Despite survivors identifying attackers by name, occupation, and home villages in first information reports, few perpetrators faced justice. Communal polarization within the legal system played a role in this. British administration's threat for penalties for official negligence held little weight given their impending withdrawal. Statements from Muslim League were considered more significant, with one prominent League politician offering protection to the perpetrators and threatening action against officials who maintained law and order impartially in the Attock district. This set a troubling precedent of the impunity for biased officials and policemen. Such failures to prosecute the guilty would ultimately contribute to further violence in Punjab as partition drew near. The events have etched indelible images of horror and tragedy into the annals of partition violence. Those who perished in this turmoil, particularly those who made the agonizing choice to end their lives or were tragically slain by their own kin to forestall dreaded conversions, sexual assaults, abductions, or coerced unions, all seen as affronts to the community honor, have been immortalized as martyrs in the Sikh community, their sacrifices forever etched in the memory.